Okay, here. Oh, gents, this video is going to be a little late and away from our usual format because I had serious time constraints dealing with government crap and all kinds of stuff this freaking week. Plus, it's Valentine's Day, you turds. I have a wife. Whew. Anyway, so we fixed some of the problems from last week. We added some things and we added some foundational things. So let's start with, I think we saw some of this last time, but it's a little more fun now. It's fun. Yeah, if you don't know how to do this, you hold Alt while you move it, and it just automatically does the thing. Does the thing. Yes, or copies it is the term. Dun, 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 dun. Yep, we're just adding a little bit of variation so they fall a bit more fun for you guys. Violent people. Alright, so here we go. It's going to be a little funky because we're still working on it. Ahem. Whew, he is standing up straight. So, there we go. There's normal. As you saw, the swords fall, which is our items thing, as you saw last time, but the big difference... Oh my god. Whoop! He stretches. Yeah, I'm going to have to fix those animations, but hey, they animate. This is important. You'll notice the longsword, greatsword. We'll explain what that is later, and why his torso turns into Mr. Stretchy Pants. But here we go. Notice they fell, they're physicalized, and there we go. Why did it do that? It didn't do that before. Yes. The sword now goes in the hand and into the skull, because these animations went for it. And we can bloop, switch weapons. Whoop. It's pooping out of him. Haha. Yes, first person will be next on the list to get going again. I didn't have time to fix it up, but we have it, and we'll have to migrate over. We did start a new project, but we used a bunch of what we learned last time, and I'll be migrating over the, what is it again? My brain's tired. Oh, the, procedural generation dungeon. And, whoop! It's so weird. It's also, I think, using the wrong animation. But we can switch to an idle sword animation that desperately needs to be fixed up. Or, I mean, we could arguably make his chest a bit wider, and this could be a stylized thing. But I don't think that suits our project too well. Whee! But you know, it's a start. I have an animation attached. You have to start with idle animations. From here, we can move into a sword combo, and then damage, and then a basic enemy to fight. But first, we'll have to clean up this animation a little bit so that the torso is not elongated, and we're not kind of facing up for some reason. And of course, we'll get the first item on the agenda is get the first person going again. That way, we can see how this animation looks from the first person perspective. After all, we are trying to make... He's constantly looking to the left. That's funny. We are trying to make ourselves a Elder Scrolls replacement, so first person is a necessity, even if we have a third person mode later. But again, this is also part of our inventory system, so you'll be able to have... Let's see here. Oh, that's off right now. Okay, if you see the little words on the side there, that's what we're going for. Oh dear. That's not supposed to happen. Oh well, we can fix that. But basically, an inventory system for one large item, one medium item, a couple small items. Basically, you know, big boy weapon like a spear or a two-handed sword, and then on and on. So it's the basic for it. That's why you have these different animation idols for the different weapons that will eventually happen. And that chest movement is so funny. Oh no. Oh man, I'll have to clean that up. But yeah, we will be learning animation as we go. We can show what it looks like to fall off the edge. That is not what we wanted. Anyway. So yeah, this is the start. This is the first This is the first blueprint weapon, but I can apply this to any item, and we can get it in the dude's hand now. We can apply animations so that they look right for the specific weapons, and from there we can actually start messing around with the actual combat system. Woo woo! Once we get the combat system set up and a little more refinement for climbing on things, we can then start going back into the procedural generated dungeon so we can see about making it better. But so we're doing this first, ladies and gentlemen, because I want to know how it feels like in the actual as close to game environment as possible, if that makes sense. So if it's going to be mostly meant to be done in first person, I want to look at everything in first person. I want to climb over everything in first person. I want to fight anything in first person. I want to get the basic fighting going. Because feel how long it's going to take to explore dungeons, how big dungeons should be, and ideas for making the in-game more interesting. And that would allow for bigger dungeons as well, with faster movements and fun stuff like that. I should have introduced the project earlier, but I was tired. This is, as always, the Tunnels of Woe, our replacement for Elder Scrolls, since Elder Scrolls 6 is going to tank, and we all know it. It's very sad. This is obviously very, very early, but we have a procedural dungeon, and soon to have a combat system and an inventory and an equipment system, as in different slots to hold things. Let's show a little bit of what we're talking about here. Yeah, look at all that. Look at it all. So, right now I have a more basic thing set up because this is going to have to plug into that, and you don't want to know about that. But basically, we're going to have an inventory equipment system. So you can have more weapons on you, but you can only use the weapons you've equipped, and certain different classes and perks will allow different type of equipment slots and numbers. For right now, though, for the basic, you have unarmed, your large items, so like a two-handed sword or a two-handed spear or halberd. Then your medium item, which is like a one-handed sword or a one-handed axe, a mace, the fun stuff, or shield, a medium shield. Then you have your small item primary, so your main hand, small item, and then your offhand. Now this will depend on class, and of course you could potentially do dual wielding something or other, or put a one-handed sword in your primary, and then like a gun or a small crossbow in the other hand. That kind of thing. We have expendables, so the idea will be different slots for spells and different expendables. So like potions, bombs, things you crafted, stuff that get used up. And we'll work on that as we go, and we can play around with what classes get what, and if there's perks like, hey, you can actually fit you can put a medium item in a large item slot, or you can get a extra large item, but it takes up both your medium and your large slots. So like a great sword, for example, or a pike would take up both of these slots. Alright. But you still be able to use these. And yeah, as to what we're thinking about, to give you some gameplay options, a variety of weapons, because melee weapons can have a lot of variety, just like guns. You just have to actually put the effort into making them feel different, have different versions of them. And I don't want all the halberds to feel the same, if that makes sense. I'd like them to actually, like, how all swords in Skyrim and all that all feel the same. I'd like to actually make them feel different, not just even if not all of the two-handed swords are gonna fight the same. Would be my ideal. But I do want to give more control. Like, Darker and Darker had a very interesting system. Ignore the awkward stuff about the company. Concentrate on the gameplay right now, gentlemen. Yeah, this is the part that helps actually put it in the guy's hand and physicalize the sword and the spot where you can grab it. Fun stuff. This does not need to be there. You didn't see it. And yeah. Any, you professional guys are probably screaming at this. Look, this is just a temporary thing to give you guys an idea what we're working with, what it's going to turn into. But yeah, I like how Dark and Darker made the weapons feel different, but I want to give you guys control over, you know, file save, over what combos you use. Like I don't feel like like some things, right? Only two-handed swords are going to be able to do. That's just normal. But I want you guys to have access to the, all of the one-handed swords should have access to all the one-handed sword combos and stuff, except for special cases. That would be the ideal. And rather, maybe something like a mixture of durability, speed to swing, reach, that kind of stuff to play in the differences between the different swords and maces and stuff. Maybe this mace over here, the whatever, actually does more damage to armor, while another one ignores less armor but does more damage once it gets through it, if that makes any sense. Yeah, stuff like that to play around with. But that's the long-term goal for the basic melee system. If you look at the different categories here, this is obviously way early on. We'll see what we can actually get into. But I like this is the goal. So I might come up with more categories. I might have to take some categories out before we start, but I'd like to have a long sword category, a great sword category, a spear category. Oh, I should have short spear on here too. Well, whatever. Palisade shield. So, I misspelled it. That's nice. Which is the idea is it takes up your large slot, but you can't fight with it. You have to put it in the ground. But when it's on your back, you can block shots with it. Pikes. So basically really long spear that takes up your 2 slots. Halberd, war axe, one-sided, war axe, double-sided. We'll get into. I know some people say, "Oh, these are stupid," but we'll find ways to make them fun because I like some realism, but I also want to have a lot of fun. So we're gonna have a good time. I misspelled arquebust because I was tired and thinking about Valentine's Day and my poor wife, so ignore that. The idea, if you don't know what an arquebust is, it's a really big crossbow that takes some serious muscle. Long weapon firearm, like a blunderbuss or a musket, that kind of thing, or early form musket. Yes, there are guns in this game. The idea is it's like late medieval, early Renaissance feel, hence the Venetian theme. Cannon is, me having fun and saying you have a big boy shoulder fire something stupid that would definitely blow your arms off, but this is fantasy, so we're gonna have fun. War bow. So if you don't know, obviously this is the large types. Oh, right. So these are everything that can fit in the large slot. Some of them will take up the medium slot as well. So like medium's like your one-handed but larger weapons. Large is like your two-handed swords and two-handed spears and whatnot. And then your extra large, like your great swords and your pikes, are going to take up the medium and the large slot. So, you get some strategy for which weapons you can switch to fast in a fight. And you can have different loadouts to mess around with. Now, obviously, your pack, your inventory pack, or whatever you want to call it, will have more room for more weapons and loot and all that. This is just what you can pull out in a fight, if that makes sense. And yeah. So I kind of want to. So you might wonder, like, well, what's the interplay between guns and bows? Well, this is early on, but if you know anything about bows, they're actually like a war bow, an arquebus. They took an immense amount of strength to actually fire these things. Like an archer from like England with the war bow, dude. The amount of pull strength on these bows. These guys were jacked. Like they were strong dudes. Maybe not what we consider jacked, but they would be physically ridiculously strong to pull the bow. So these weapons, like the bows and the arquebust, will require significant strength points to actually use and use properly, while the firearm can get some similar penetration for much longer reload times without the strength requirements. It's more, this is actually kind of how it worked. Like you may wonder, the early firearms were actually worse than the arquebus and the crossbows. In fact, the Spanish conquistadors, I'm going to get a little nerdy on you guys, hang on. The Spanish conquistadors, hope you guys aren't too bored. We'll do a little something while I talk. Excuse me? Yeah, there we go. The conquistadors actually had crossbows with them when they went off to fight the Aztecs. So the reason why handguns were so effective, and this worked with the Japanese too, we might add, was you didn't need as much physical strength or training to fire the guns, but you could get some similar penetration despite the lower fire rate. And then as guns got more effective, yeah, don't worry, we're gonna fix this. We might even make it where you have to sheath your weapons to climb. I always hate it in games where it's like, oh ha, I can climb perfectly while my entire hand is taken up by this thing. Ugh. But that could also be a class thing. Certain weapons like small knives or whatnot can be ready to go. It'd be fun to like have a pirate type class. I'm just spouting, but like a pirate type class with a special ability where you can put a knife in your teeth, arr, so you can instantly attack when you're done climbing. I kind of like that idea. Whee! And again, none of this is set in stone. You guys are in the ideas stage. You get to come really early. Like, look at this stretchy body, baby. Woo! Again, like, you make that chest bigger, and you're looking at, like, classic cartoon Superman style. With the big old chests. You know, remember my childhood. But yeah, that's why they brought them less, they brought them because bigger, stronger guys with training could make a lot of use out of them and actually get more penetration than the early firearms. Oh my god, my cat's attacking me. Anyway, so that's my thinking. A little bit of realism mixed with fun so that there's a reason to use the bows or the firearms depending on your skills and what you're doing. Woo! Forgot it does that. Oh man, we gotta fix some of these animations while you're running with a sword and stuff. I don't know, this cracks me up so much. Can we climb like this? Oh my god! It's so funny! I love the janky part of video game design. Whee! Woo! Gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. Oh, listen. Anyway. Woo! The one twirl doesn't look that bad. Just a little weird. Oh, I'm sorry. I should stop. But that was really entertaining for me. But yeah. The idea being the firearms will take less strength points or dexterity points to fire. And of course, the smaller crossbows and stuff will require less because you don't need as much strength, but obviously less damage, less penetration. While the guns will take longer to reload and can do more damage per shot for less strength, if that makes sense. And then that gets interesting balanced as the later, more advanced firearms happen, but you have to have more intelligence or the gun like blows up in your hand. Like the idea is, right, if you're not taking care of your gun, it's going to explode. Fun ideas. We'll see what plays out, but I promise you guys that I'll only allow realism to the point that it's fun and it adds gameplay. If that makes sense. I hope it does. I like enough realism to make the game feel immersive, but I do not want it to get to the point where it's no fun because you're playing a real-life simulator but in a fantasy land. I mean, hey, it's a little more fun, but you catch my meaning. Okay. Alright. I think that's it. Next week, I'll hopefully have more, because this government and personal stuff is finally taking a hike for 5 minutes. I can get more than a couple days work in. Thank the Lord. But, yeah. Next week, the goal is to get FPS working again, so first person, and at least one sword combo, possibly, depending on how much time I have, getting an enemy to fight, and if I have a lot of time where things work much faster than I expect, I've found a tutorial to make everything climbable. Oh, and obviously fixing this animation so I don't go stretchy. Stretchy man. Good times. Alright, gents. That's it for Tunnels of Woe this week. Next week we'll go back to our more normal format so you can see my lovely mug and balding, blinding head. Make sure to like and subscribe to check out our our Sunday sermons, our Monday Sunday schools, which, sorry, we had to skip that this week. life happened. I feel bad. And also come back every Saturday for more of this. And I'll start getting the shorts going again. Yeah, you shake out those shoulders and stretch. Why is that so funny? Anyway, I'm gonna base the sword combos on real HEMA and real like fencing with two-handed swords. That's the plan. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Woo! Ah!